This is Rob Turner from Inside Out wTnS and the Osiris Podcast Network, and I'm sitting here with two gentlemen from Umphrey's McGee, Mr. Ryan Stasek and Mr. Brendan Bayless. Welcome, gentlemen.
Gentlemen is a stretch, but thank you.
Yes.
This conversation starts something like this. There's a significance to the new CD that I feel has been overlooked, that with regard to full-length studio albums, you guys have now taken it to 11.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you that.
There's been some great... we were just talking about Relics Magazine. They're a partner with Osiris, and Raffaella Kenny Sincata wrote in Relics. And by the way, they just did a cover... Dean Bunnick cover story on Umphrey's McGee. Look out for that. Instead of focusing on singularity, this set showcases the band's range. And also, the Chicago Tribune said, undoubtedly, It's Not Us includes some of the best melodies Umphrey's McGee has ever recorded. To what extent were these two things a goal going into the process, and to what extent did they just come out of it?
I don't know about... The only goal we had was just to make ourselves happy. We had a big pile of stuff, and it was all over the place. So I think the main goal is for us to be proud of it, and at that point, you know, we love these glowing reviews because they're very accurate, but that was not the target.
I think Brendan's right, and when we go in there, we're all so different. Part of our identity is having such a wide spectrum of music and being able to make melodies in a rock and roll style, in a heavier, heavy rock or metal style, and even a folk or blues. And I think that's kind of what our identity has become as Umphrey's McGee. We like to do a little bit of everything and then try to put it together on a platter, a poo-poo platter, that everyone would enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Prog Report compared Joel's work to Tony Banks and compared you guys to Queen, and I read these reviews.
Print that.
That's not real.
That's not real.
The apostrophe was misplaced, though, and as a Frank Zappa fan, I'm particularly apostrophe sensitive. But you've been compared to Queen, this record, not you, this record, Queen, Porcupine Tree, Dream Theater, Ben Folds, The Killers, Boz Scaggs, Red Hot Chili Peppers, The Police. Is it ever a concern to be too eclectic and it's tougher to keep the audience? Or, I mean, you've trained your audience so well. I mean, I know, the ones I know embrace the eclecticism nature of it.
Yeah. Yes. You know what? From the beginning, like Ryan said earlier, we've always been all over the place. And I think maybe to a fault, it confused people because they didn't know what to expect. But I've always taken pride in the fact that if you don't like this song, maybe you like the next one. If you don't like that, then maybe you'll like the next one. And if you don't like that, then you're just an idiot. So...
I'm still on team all over the place. I've been that ever since when I go see music, and yes, I go see music where they pretty much have a formula and stick to it for that whole show, and I do enjoy it. But the next night, I'll go see complete opposite, and I'll enjoy it just as much. So I think it's nice and a breath of fresh air to see a band that can take you unexpectedly on all of those journeys in one show.
Now, what about looks? It blurs the distinction between verse and chorus. It has odd time signatures, a wonderful bass line. Did you write the bass line?
This is a Jake tune. Good old slap on the Rickenbacker. He wrote it.
So he writes the bass line and then comes to you and says, play this.
He wrote the whole tune as a Lego, and I have the permission to change it up. But the kind of funk metal thing that he was doing with the slap, it was too good. It was perfect. I didn't want to add to it. The spacing was nice. The slap was nice. And I'll add effects and other things while we're in the studio. But as far as the skeleton itself, that was all Jake, all of it.
And I love Myers really digs into it live, and it makes Joel look like a butterfly when he plays live.
Joel usually looks like a butterfly, though.
Let's talk about Manny Sanchez. You've been working with him forever.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about, and help me with the pronunciation of the last name, Greg, is it Magers?
Majors.
Can you talk about how Manny brought Greg to you?
To be honest, so Manny was the first person we actually trusted. And then the first time I really met Greg and worked with Greg, I was not informed about Greg being there. So I walked in and I said, to myself, who is this guy?
He's quite handsome.
And then, well, yeah, he's very striking. But so Manny walks out of the room and says, you're doing vocals with Greg. And I thought to myself, okay, that's kind of weird. I don't know this guy. I'm already very uncomfortable. And then I did a take and Greg said, that was good. Can we do it again with some balls and like you care? And I instantly knew that we were going to work well together because he was able to just get to it. You know, he's very gifted at hearing things and pulling things out of you.
And what about the man who reinvented the idea of a career path in rock and roll, who also worked on this, Mr. Kevin Browning? What was his involvement?
Kevin is kind of the behind the scenes guy, kind of like connecting the dots and making a lot of things happen. He's definitely, as far as getting the cover images together, he was instrumental in pulling that all together. He'll book the room and get us all in the room and get Manny and Greg there, and then he'll get out of the way and let us do what we need to do, and then we'll give him a product, and he'll figure out how to get it out there.
I'd like to go back and touch upon Manny and Greg again too. As the six of us would go into the studio, even when we were novices, we were very well. At first, we couldn't afford to have a producer, and then we didn't want to have a producer because we already had what we considered 6 really good cooks in the kitchen, and we work very well being democratic and not getting butt hurt when we say something doesn't work. So we kind of produce each other. And then we learned to trust Manny and Greg, and that was huge. And over the years, those guys are stellar engineers and people. And I do a lot of my work one-on-one with Greg, and I've never met anybody with a pitch-perfect ear the way he is, the way he hears. And it's an honor to be in there with Manny and Greg working with those guys. So big shout-out to both of them.
That was a big kiss from me to them, too.
And what about a...
Oh, yeah.
Can we have any improvisational whistle jams anytime in the future?
I don't trust people who whistle, but carry on.
Ryan has a problem because he can't whistle.
Well, this song has justified something I've been saying for years, that you and Joel suck and the rest of the band blows.
Oh, hey.
So wait, I blow?
Mel Brooks references. This is good.
Okay.
Depends on the night.
Yeah.
Joel and I can only whistle sucking in. So technically
they
we suck.
suck.
They blow.
Yes. I think it's...
So,
did I get that backwards?
You did, but that's okay.
quite
close enough for
Technicalities. Yeah. Right?
But seriously, talk about recording that. Is that tricky to record whistling, or is that...
Actually, what's funny is because we all got in a room to whistle and we couldn't do it.
Well, I did not get in the room.
He sat behind the booth going...
Had a Budweiser, a Buzzweiser.
But
Buzzweiser.
It's his daughter's term. But so the whistles that we used were the ones from my demo from my house, because we couldn't do it all together. But the snaps are all of us in a circle.
Well, we kicked Joel out of both of those. He was flamming the snaps and he can't whistle.
Sounds like Tony Banks.
Yeah.
Did it serve as comic relief for when you're in the middle of this intense recording?
Yes.
Yeah.
Joel is always comic relief.
No, it was anytime you get 6 grown men, 5, in a circle trying to do something that is not in our skill set, it's always going to be funny, So that's why we couldn't use any of it. Half of it we're laughing.
And it's about how your term demonic childhood behavior can sometimes be very ill-timed. Can you give an example of one of your children?
Yeah, I feel like they know when you're hungover, they smell it, and they pounce. I don't know if it's they hear you come in late or they smell it in the air on your breath, but 5 a.m. is painful. And when they see that, and then they don't let go, and then they start screaming and jumping. I just got a headache.
Home at time. Don't look good.
I love them most of the time.
So, what's that, Seth? 5 minutes. Oh, all right. Let's talk about...
Question?
I thought you were like... One of the things I love about you guys, and sometimes I love your fan base even more than you, and here's an example of it. Not only do you pull riffs from Jimmy Stewart and create new songs, but your fans will be able to reference exactly what jam they came from. Like, I think Piranhas, Maybe Someday, and Remind Me are all sourced from Stewart's, right? At least to some extent. Definitely Remind Me, because it was here.
Remind Me, not Piranhas. What was the other one?
Maybe Someday.
Yeah, Maybe Someday there was some of it. It's weird because there's some kids who will say, play it like this. I'm like, I don't know what that was, 5 years ago. Sorry that I've moved on, but they have a very, very detailed memory, and I don't know if it's because they listen to podcasts or what, but they know more than we do.
I find it fucking interesting that they say, play it like this.
Yeah.
No.
Do
you guys listen to podcasts?
Not as much as I should. I'm listening to Wheels on the Bus and Old MacDonald.
Oh.
Yeah.
I do not.
But we do listen to your podcasts.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Dan Delaney just moved to Atlanta.
Really?
You know who he is?
Yes.
He's
Tell
one of
me
your
more.
premier fans. I would love to do an Umphrey's McGee fan base with Dan Delaney. Hopefully, maybe someday. Speak up.
There
Maybe
it is.
someday I see what you
He's
did
He's been
there.
doing it the whole time.
Thank you so much for paying attention. Speak up. The great Josh Redman. It's another thing that's been assessed and spoken about. Josh Redman, who's in a line of jazz, son of Dewey Redman, had Pat Metheny on his first tour. Amazing player. He comes into your studio. Are you telling him what to do? Or are you just saying, oh my God, like I am to you guys, thank you so much for being here. Whatever you want to do, do.
No. He didn't come into the studio with us. We did all the parts before, and then we sent it to him to his studio in California, and then he ripped it as he does and sent it back and said,
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's still, I'm kind of trying to figure out how we convinced him to be a friend and like to play with us. I don't know what we did or how we.
Brendan, you're a pretty cool dude.
Thanks, man.
I'd hang out with you.
Maybe that, okay. I'm going to stop right there and just enjoy it.
But just for the live thing, for an aside, real quick, it's ballsy enough to do a full set of improvisational music, to have a guest musician for part of it. I mean, you really have to have a mutual trust there. What discussion went on with Josh before that? At all? Nothing.
We didn't really talk.
That's when Jake was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually didn't even have Jake, so we were a man down. So he was our sixth man.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
No, it was actually, it just felt comfortable. You go out and you do what you do. You know, he's a professional. There was no worry. You know, you just use your ears, use your eyes, make music.
The only conversation I remember having was the set's about 60 minutes. Can you come up very early and stay very long? And he said, I'll come up when I feel right, and if I feel weird, I'll walk off. And he ended up coming up
Early,
and he played long, so it worked out.
Carl Engelman from Alibaba's Tahini, which was Jake Sininger.
Sininger.
I know, I get shit for that.
Carl Engelman, a young Johnny Depp.
But you guys have sourced Carl. First of all, Mother Vinegar is reuniting. I don't know if you guys know.
Nice.
So far, it's in a trio format with Kevin Castles and Tommy Dennison. Is it Dennison or Davidson?
I don't know. I saw a photograph though, and they looked happy.
They may even record in Boondocks Studios, which is where you guys recorded. Which, by the way, the Boondocks series is Jake walking through some of the songs in very detailed and actually kind of hilarious at points fashion. People check that out. The Boondocks series. One of them is on Relics. Will you ever source Carl again? Are you done with covering his material? It's been a while.
No, I mean he's been busy chefing.
Sure, but the songs are still there.
Yeah.
You mean going into old catalog?
Yeah, or even a Mother Vinegar song.
No, that's always a possibility. I think what we try and strive to now is really getting together in 2 or 3 and writing new music ourselves. You know, we've got a lot on the plate, a lot on the back burner, a lot of things. And now it's just trying to find the time to get together and say, hey, is this working? What can we take from some of our old jams? But yeah, the opportunity, if it presents itself, it's still there. But
I love him. I love
He and I actually tried to do something like 6 or 7 years ago. He had a song called Beer Jacket, and he had the verses, and I put a chorus on it. And then I played it for my wife, and she thought it was terrible. So I got to go dig that back up. Not Carl's part. My contribution was weak. But for lack of timing, I think, I have 3 kids now, and he's in South Carolina.
Yeah, well, they showed up to the first rehearsal real quick, and he had all the songs.
nice.
Yeah, they're ready
Love
to go.
Carl.
Nice. So
Love Carl.
excellent.
All right, end with some fanboy shit. Who wrote Draconian? And you can play that song any time you want. If you're ever going to play a song every night, that's the one.
Yeah,
Who wrote
it
it?
was Stu thing.
I wrote
That was?
Yeah, the intro part. I remember coming up with, and then Jake came up with like a melody, just a descending minor thing. And then a B section, we're basically like, hey, we're in E minor and see where this goes. And that's always what happens. It's just a starting point. So it's more of the Jimmy Stewart, more of the Umble type arrangement and song where everybody gets writing credit.
The mashups are gone. You bring up Umble. Is there any chance that Umble could become the Halloween thing? And Umble, by the way, for the folks, that's a 4-set fan interactive show that they used to do once a year.
Plus overtime.
Plus overtime, yes.
Yeah. Nothing's ever off the table. I do know that we did enjoy the break from it these past couple of years. It's a large amount of work.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Not only from our end trying to get it to go, but from just gathering and researching all the material. Luckily, we have people like John who go and do that for us. But I'll, again, never say never. But right now, we don't know. It's a good idea, though. Maybe a Halloween show could be.
I could see us coming back to it. It's just all about timing.
And throw nachos for 2 in the mix, maybe. Your
Why?
fans, I don't know your fans, because I think with the way you're, well, let's have that
Why?
Let's have that conversation later. Stasek, the last time the Bruins and Penguins met, you're a smart man, and it was quite clear the Bruins were the juggernaut, so you didn't bet. This time you're the 2-time Stanley Cup champions. If we meet again, would you do a wager if your part would be, if you lose, you appear on some of our cousin Osiris podcasts?
Yeah, what do I win when my team wins?
That's your call. What do you?
That's my call. Okay.
You get to appear on ours.
My answer is yes. I actually have you guys picking the bracket to play us. I have us beating the Capitals, you beating Tampa Bay, and meeting in the finals. So
wow,
that should
thank
be
you.
fun. Yeah, but yeah, I love the bet. You know that.
I'm not convinced we're going to beat Tampa.
3-peat.
Moving forward, one last thing: the ethos of Mantis. That was the one time you held the songs back before you. I guess to some extent this one, but would you ever do a whole album that way again? A whole album where you hold the songs back?
Sure. Again, never say never. I mean, who knows what our next album's even going to be? I was listening to the new Ghost Note last night on my flight, and I like what they did, and a lot of it, they have them talking about the songs, like singing the counts, like and then the guy starts playing the bass line over it and going through, and it's real organic. It sounds lo-fi. Maybe we'll get away from the everything has to be polished song in a studio form and get more in that real comfortable, I'm totally riffing here, but get into that total comfortable that we're just 6 guys in a room making new music and how it's going to go. I don't know. That felt really cool to me to get out of there just like, okay, here's your intro, here's your middle, and here's your end, and have something that's completely different. I mean, we've made, 11 records, you said? So who knows what route
full length.
Full length. Who knows what route we'll go for the 12th. So or the 13th
Yeah,
or 14th.
I guess it's all about timing. But it's hard to have all those songs and then sit on them because you want to share them with the world and at least your friends and get them out. And you want to play them live. So
you have to play them live, yeah. For us.
I guess it could be done if we had some others that wouldn't make it that we could play to kind of scratch that itch, you know.
Well, your tour manager, Bobby Haight, has been doing an excellent job. Had enough headaches this weekend, and I don't want to give him another one, so I'm going to end this now and say thank you both very much for your time. Please check out Osiris podcast. Let's work together, maybe get an Umphrey's podcast on there.
Well,
and
if
get
the
Dan
Bruins
Delaney.
win, I'm in.
Bruins win, yeah. Maybe you'll be the first guest on the new Umphrey's podcast with Dan Delaney.
All right. Hi, Dan.